Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I want to go into a couple of other things this morning. Primarily, some of the chemicals which are being produced in the chemtrails, and the link to the additives and the chemical constituents that are being added to your food, water, and your consumables, even your cosmetics such as shower gel, shampoo, etc. Most of these elements, or a lot of these elements that are being sprayed in the chemtrails, actually have no recognised effect on the body. Some do, obviously. Specifically the plutonium, uranium, lithium, borium, these sort of things. The radioactive particles obviously cause cancer and a lot of problems. But some of them, on their own, don't really initialise any reactions in your body. I've been thinking about all of the stuff that's put into your food, all the additives, all the stuff that they tell you about, and some of the stuff, by the way, which they don't actually print on the packaging. What this means is that the chemtrails spray specific particulates, specific chemicals, biological agents, radiological agents, etc. On their own, some of these have no effect on your body, but when they're mixed with the additives that are added into your food, water, and your things that you use, for having a shower, for having a bath, women's cosmetics, etc., when they're mixed with those elements, they have a chemical reaction which forms another element, which that then can be very dangerous to your body. This gives the geoengineers basically plausible deniability for their actions, the stuff they're spraying, because they'll just turn around and say to you that actually the stuff we're spraying isn't harmful to your body. A lot of it is, but some of it actually isn't. But when it's mixed with the additives and the chemicals which are put in your food, obviously a lot of chemicals are not actually listed on the ingredients of the food. They mix with these elements and then they cause different elements which can cause you big problems within your body. They can cause all sorts of nasty problems, diseases and stuff to arise. Basically producing cell mutations which then mutate into nasty diseases. For example, volcanologists, when they investigate volcanoes, they wear a mask. They wear the mask because of the sulfur dioxide. Now, sulfur dioxide mixed with oxygen, it goes through what's known as an exothermic reaction and oxidizes. What this causes, the sulfur dioxide mixes with the oxygen and causes sulfuric acid. So as soon as you breathe that sulfur dioxide into your lungs, it then has an exothermic reaction in your lungs which mixes with the water, the H2O, okay, and causes sulfuric acid to build up in your lungs. Another thing that we are actually seeing worldwide now are basically big snowstorms, okay? These snowstorms are engineered snowstorms. They contain heavy metals and they are engineered winter deception, basically. It is chemically nucleated snow, and that goes through an endothermic reaction. It doesn't melt. If you actually put a flame to that snow, you'll get a chemical smell, a chemical reaction with the heat within that snow. You can put a flame to it, it just won't melt. The smell that you smell are the heavy metals and the chemicals, the biological and radiological elements that are actually in that fake snow. It's called ice nucleating cloud structures. They form these clouds which can form these massive snowstorms. They're extremely heavy. The snow is much heavier than normal snow because of the heavy metals it contains. It's probably roughly the same sort of weight as volcanic ash. For example, if you have a volcanic eruption, you have maybe an inch of volcanic ash on your roof, can actually collapse your roof because it's so heavy. The ice nucleating snow has the same effect. It's extremely heavy in comparison to normal snow, which is just normal ice crystals, water that's frozen, form individual ice crystals to form snow. And it's probably about 20 or 30 times heavier than normal snow. So if you had 6 inches of this snow, or 5 inches, or 4 inches of snow on that roof, it could actually collapse your roof. It's causing huge damage worldwide. All these exothermic reactions in your body, when the chemicals from the chemtrails are mixed with the food additives you're eating, when they're mixed with the additives of the shower gels, shampoos, etc., which you use for your daily hygiene, even toothpaste, I mean, who knows what they're putting in there because they don't list all of the ingredients that are in there, can be all extremely dangerous. As I mentioned, this gives the geoengineers plausible deniability for the simple fact that the elements in the chemtrails don't cause this reaction. Look into scientific explanation of this particular element, what it does to the body. It doesn't cause this, but it does cause something when it's mixed with the additives that are put into your food. I've been outside this morning and the weather's absolutely bloody terrible. And I've checked Sat Radar 24 again, and we've got a horrendous amount of geoengineered cloud coming in. I mean, this is, for me, been the worst summer for at least the last 5 or 6 years. I know the program's been up since about 2000, 2005. Actually, I've noticed a considerable difference in the amount of sunshine we're having in the summer. I've noticed a considerable decrease in the amount of migratory birds here, which I always see. They're either very, very late coming here, or they're just not coming here at all. There's been a dramatic reduction in the amount of swifts that I've seen. Now, the swifts are the ones that spend their whole life on the wing. All their life that they're in the air. The only time they come down to the ground is to breed. In a short 4-week window in the summer, they fly all the way from Africa to here to breed. The young grow very, very quickly, between 4 and 5 weeks, and then they all fly back to Africa again for their summer, although thousands of miles. And they spend all of their lives in the air. They feed on the wing, they sleep on the wing, and as I said, the only time they come down to ground is to actually breed. It's the only time they actually land on the surface of the earth. They're absolutely incredible birds. I remember going back in the 80s and the 90s, we would see literally hundreds, sometimes thousands of these swifts high up in the thermals, feeding on the small insects of that part of the atmosphere. Beautiful sight, and so many. Now, I see maybe 10 or 15 at one time. Normally I see maybe 5 or 6 of them. Because we've had such terrible weather, obviously they can't fly on the thermals because there's not enough heat being generated to go up to lift them, because the birds need to have that those thermal lifting things for them to actually get into the air and to get higher altitude. If the air's cold, they have to really, really struggle to get that altitude because they've got no thermal lift to help them. They exert so much energy through flight, these birds, because they're always on the wing. They never land apart from to breed. So there's been a drastic reduction in the amount of these birds I've seen. There's been a very drastic amount of reduction in other birds which I normally see in the summer, which migrate to the UK regularly. We all know what these birds are. I used to study ornithology when I was a kid. I found it fascinating. I love nature anyway. It's beautiful, and we should all know about it. There are so many species that are disappearing now. For example, I've seen a few bees around, but each year I see less and less. I did mention, I'm not sure if I mentioned in my videos, but I mentioned on one of my posts on Facebook, which, by the way, I'm not going to use very much anymore. I'm completely fed up with all of this. So, speaking about the bees, bees actually navigate by ultraviolet light. That's how they navigate. Because the ultraviolet radiation now reaching the Earth is so high, and it's so hot, it's literally blinding the bees. So the bees are being blinded. We are losing bees because of this. There's a secondary effect that it has on the bees, and that secondary effect is that that obviously aluminium causes brain disorders, degenerative brain disorders. Not disease, of course. Disorders is what people need to fucking start to think, that it's not a disease, it's a disorder, same as cancer. We suffer from degenerative brain disorders such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and autism, and obviously Down syndrome, which is also known as trisomy 21 chromosome, genetic chromosome disorder. These conditions affect the brain because the aluminium affects the part of the brain which are predominantly affected by these disorders, which are the cortex, neocortex, hippocampus, and the cerebellum. So it affects them. It affects us in that way. It also affects bees in the same way. Bees have a brain, obviously. Their brains are very complex. They're organised in a way that for navigation and for recognising colours, they have a fantastic colour perception. They recognise the plants that they can pollinate, the plants they can't pollinate. Bees obviously navigate in ultraviolet light, and because this radiation is so bright now, they are literally being blinded. So we are losing the bees because of this. We're also losing the bees because their brains are also being affected by the aluminium, barium, and strontium, and they are having degenerative brain disorders as well. You don't think bees can contract Alzheimer's and Parkinson's? Of course they can. A brain is a brain. It still affects the brain in exactly the same way. The brain might not be as complex as a human brain, but it still has the same chemical reactions. The same neurons are firing inside the brain. The information is being transmitted to the muscles from the neurons into the bee, into its eyes, to its visual cortex to recognise everything around it. Once these neurons start to degenerate, then the bee starts to get confused. It doesn't know where the fucking flowers are. It doesn't know how to navigate from its hive to the flowers and back to its hive. They get lost, they get confused, and they die. So this is the reason we're losing the bees. Of course, I'm not going to admit to this. This is absolute scientific fact. I've been researching this now for about the last 3 months, and it's truly terrifying, ladies and gentlemen. Mosquitoes as well, they also pollinate flowers. A lot of people don't realise this. They're extremely important to the ecosystem. We are losing mosquitoes as well. There's been some studies carried out as regards insects. Some extremely eminent entomologists have been looking into the demise of all insects, not just bees and mosquitoes. And we are seeing at the moment a 65% reduction in the amount of insect species on the earth. The species that are left are suffering. They're suffering really, really badly. And the entomologists give these insect species maybe 15 to 20 years before they will be eradicated completely from our ecosystem. People tend not to take very much notice of things like flies, for example, blue bottles, green flies, these sort of things. They have an absolutely enormously important role in our ecosystem. For example, dogs, foxes, cats, all different animals, they go outside, they poo everywhere, okay? Not everybody picks it up. You certainly don't pick up, fox poo because you don't have a fox as a pet, but dogs and cats, yes. They leave their feces everywhere. Obviously, this stuff can cause diseases, infections. Obviously, you should always pick your dog poo up, because if a child picks dog poo up, and puts it back down and scratches his eye, it's got very nasty enzymes in there which can actually blind that child. Very nasty stuff, dog poo. Because dogs have much stronger stomach acids, and the enzymes in dog stomach are much stronger than ours. So these enzymes are still present in dog poo. And children can, be literally blinded if they get there. They pick it up, and little kids pick up everything. What kids are like, and they rub their eyes, and that can actually blind them. But getting away from that, insects are very important because they actually lay their eggs on the poo, and the maggots and everything come to life. Wonderful nature again, and eat that and break it down, and it goes back into the elements, into the soil, and breaks down, and everything's fine. But if we don't have flies, for example, carcasses of dead animals, flies and stuff, bloat flies, for example, are the predominant ones. They lay their eggs on there, the maggots hatch and eat that flesh, so it doesn't cause a disease or infection. But you can imagine there are no insects, no flies to do this anymore, so there's poo everywhere, there's carcasses of dead animals everywhere, which will cause an epidemic in disease. Plus the fact that if the bees die and the mosquitoes die, we're in very big fucking problems for simple reasons. There'll be no more pollination of any flowers or plants, the crops won't be able to be pollinated, so we'll have no food, as in the usual stuff in the bread basket: wheat, barley, that sort of stuff, corn, fruits and vegetables. They all need to be pollinated. Don't forget that all fruits and vegetables have flowers, and in order for those particular plants to be successful, they need to be pollinated by bees or mosquitoes or hoverflies or wasps as well. If these insects die, there'll be no pollination, and there'll be no fruits, no vegetables, no corn, no bread, no flour, nothing. So basically, we'll find it very difficult. It could lead to the end of us. So if the insects die and the bees die, there'll be a massive increase in disease worldwide, because these dead carcasses and all the feces and poo that's left around all the time will just sit there forever, for a long, long time, and cause all sorts of nasty problems, diseases, infections for everybody around them. There'll be no pollination, so we will be left with a very limited food source. Okay, we get proteins from meat and fish, obviously, but vegetables provide us with lots of vitamins and nutrients and stuff that we need on a daily basis. We obviously need sunlight because we need to have vitamin D, but because of the reduction in the amount of sunlight now, which has basically been reduced by 25% through the solar radiation management programs, and some of the chemicals like lithium, for example, thickens your skin. So you look at your hands and the skin's really thick. So the vitamin D from the solar radiation can't get through that thick skin, so therefore you're not really receiving as much vitamin D as you should. It makes it very difficult. I think this is also premeditated. I think that all the chemicals that are put into your food are put in there for a reason, to react in conjunction, to have exothermic reactions with the chemicals that are being sprayed in the chemtrails. So there's a correlation there. This correlation, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, gives the geoengineers plausible deniability. I'm going to look into this a little bit further, but for now, ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll call it a day. Very nice to have all your attention, and I wish you a very good day. Thank you very much for watching. See you later, guys. Take care.